Hey, I'm just Amos. Welcome back to Life of Robert's Wife. Today I want to share with you my gardening journey, how I began, things I've learned, and where I am now. So thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so I want to start with the beginning. That's where we always should start, right? And so to start my gardening journey off, I can say it began with watching my grandmother. Every year she grew a garden, and I would see her stake the tomatoes with, it seemed to be old broomstick handles or large wooden sticks, but I would see her grow tomatoes every year. And even my grandfather, he used to grow watermelons, and all the grandkids would get their own watermelon. But I never saw my mother growing a vegetable garden. She would have nice flowers growing around or plants in the house, but I never saw her do the gardening. And so it was something that was kind of lost in my childhood years because I saw my grandmother do it. I didn't help her. I would help get tomatoes off or harvest the tomatoes. I would get them from the vine, but I never helped in the whole gardening process. I would see her with the hoe because she didn't have all of the expensive tools and equipment that we have now that are so convenient. But all I saw her was with a garden hoe. I don't remember her buying soil. I don't remember like organic plant food and all that kind of stuff. I didn't remember that. Now I do remember going to like the seed and feed store with her in town, and I would play with the baby chicks, as she was going. I don't know why she went, but I just don't remember because I didn't see her with that gardening, in the gardening process, planning what she was going to garden and actually working out there with her with the soil and everything. I just saw her put the sticks for the tomato plants, and sometimes I would go out there and look and I would see that something was growing, and that was about it. And so when I got older, that's when I decided, you know what, I want to try my hand in gardening. So now I want to share with you newbie mistakes that I've made. So in the first year that I decided that I wanted to garden, I had no knowledge. I didn't really research. My thing was, okay, I'm a biology major. I was a biology major. I'm this science person. How hard can it be? You just put a seed in the dirt, water, and it's gonna grow. That is the basics. Those are the basics, but it's a little bit more to it, right? And so the first year that I decided to garden, I actually had a kiddie pool. I went to Fred's. I don't know how many of you remember that store, but I went to Fred's. I bought a kiddie pool, and I even bought those little dollar bags of soil to fill the pool. And so that was basically, I don't know, it didn't have all the nutrients and everything that it should have had, but I believe God blessed it because that was something that I was interested in, right? So he knew where my heart was in it. So he was like, I'm going to let it grow. I'm going to water it, and I'm going to let it grow, but you're going to have to do your own research so that you can get better. And so in the kiddie pool, I bought corn seeds. I put bell peppers there, and I also put watermelon. Yes, watermelon with corn. And my watermelons grew. The corn grew. I had lettuce. The corn grew, but the fruit did not mature because we never did eat corn from that. And I was scared to eat the lettuce because I was like, oh, it got dirt on it. Like, I don't know. Have any of you ever had that mindset? Like, I know I grew it. I know I buy it in the store, but I don't want to eat it. Like, I want to grow it, but I don't want to eat it. And so I was scared to eat it because I was like, even though it was in a kiddie pool, what I did was I cut the bottom of it out. I laid cardboard and newspaper in the bottom. I filled it up with the soil. But then when it started to grow up, I was like, is this grass though? Is this wild grass, or is this really my lettuce? But when I saw that watermelon grew, it was like a sugar baby. It was like one of those round watermelons. I knew that was a watermelon. And so I cut it open and we ate that. And I only had like one that really grew. The other ones, it would grow, but the squirrels would get to them. So I didn't get a chance to harvest all of them. But I was like, Lord, these are some mistakes I'm making, and I know this is supposed to grow and look better than this. And so that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to have to find somebody who knows what they're doing so that they can help me, because this is not going to go well. And I'm spending money on something, and I really want it to be good for my family, right? And so even as I read the Bible and I read about the Proverbs 31 woman, like, she considers a field. She looks at this field, she buys it, she brings food from afar for her family. Like, she has a field, but she's also going and getting some things. So I want to be able to do that. I want to make healthy meals for my family. And even for myself, once I turned 40, it was like my body was doing something different. Like, where my metabolism was like, shh, now it's like everything slowed down considerably, and weight began to come on, and I began to start having health issues. But then when I started to take my health seriously, which happened in spurts, I was never consistent, still not consistent, but I'm better than I was. And then as I began to exercise more, eat better, I felt better. I just was not consistent, but I would see changes. And then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, you were only allowed to get so much food in the store because the store shelves were empty, right? Like, you could only get like 1 pack of bread. You can get only 1 or 2 packs of meat. And so it was like, I don't ever want to be in this state again. And so we already were a homeschool family. So I already stored like certain staples in my house, like flour, sugar, rice, 2 types of flour, like the all-purpose, the self-rising flour. I stored rice and I stored sugar. And so, you know, like, if you shut down, you want to make sure that the morale stays up, right? So if you have flour and sugar, you can always make tea cakes, or you can always make cookies. Like, keep chocolate chips on hand. You can make cookies, and keep your freezer stocked with like salted butter, unsalted butter, and you could just make something sweet really quick for your family. But then I was like, well, we need to have vegetables. We need to have, you know, other stuff. And then my mind began to say, you need to find more resources. You need to find somebody who can help you, who can give you advice. And so that's what I went in looking for that. And so at the time, I used to be on Facebook, and I would join these gardening groups, Black Girls Garden, Gardeners of Mississippi, We Love Gardening, all that kind of stuff. Like, you would just put the hashtag in. I don't know why I can't talk. And I would find people, and you could just ask any question. And there's such a wealth of knowledge out there. And so I met this young lady, and she shared with me 3 books that really helped her. And so I want to share those books with you. The first book, I actually have tabs in that book because I use it. I truly, truly use that book. The first book is Square Foot Gardening, and it is by Mel Bartholomew. This book, excuse me, this book is filled with knowledge. It is filled with knowledge on how to grow your vegetables, your fruit, anything that could go wrong, when to transplant, if you need to transplant it at all, how much water it needs, how many plants can go into each square foot, because it's basically getting a greater yield in whatever space that you have. So I love this book. The next book I have is Rodale's Garden Answers. And so it says vegetables, fruits, and herbs, at a glance solutions for every gardening problem, all organic. And I do have 1 tab here in this book, and that's because one year I was really having problems with growing my squash, and there was this white powder that was always on my leaves. And so I figured out what that was in this book. It was a great help. The last book that she recommended was Self-Sufficiency for the 21st Century. And this was a father and son, Dick and James Strawbridge. And this is a really good book. I don't use, and it has great pictures in here to show you exactly what's going on. I don't use this book as much because this is more for homesteaders, like those who are very, very serious about it. And I want to get to this point one day in my life, but not right now. It's not like a high priority right now. But if I have questions about, you know, growing different vegetables, it still has colorful pages in here for that as well. And so with the resources that I had, it helped me to garden better every year. So I would recommend, you know, if this is something that you want to do for your family, don't just get excited about it and then drop off. actually research, see if this is something that you want to do. Plan it out. Plan everything out. The expenses, where you're going to put your garden. Do you have animals around that could come in? Like, we can look on our security camera so we can just see deer. Just having a family reunion right there in our yard. And so if that's a problem, then you would need to know how to maybe use netting or something to keep the deer and pests away. Something similar to that, rabbits, or even if you just have dogs that like to dig and they escape out the fence and they come where your garden is, cats. Even with my front yard, my cats are always getting in my garden. They're always scratching and using the restroom, and it just frustrates me. I still don't know how to do that. But I decided to garden smarter by using these resources and by using the people and the wealth of information and resources that was around me. So when we moved to our new home, I had a plot of land that was about as big as a tire. I grew squash, bell peppers, onions, and cucumbers. I think the cucumbers came later, but the squash would not stop growing. The peppers grew very well. Tomatoes grew, but when you turn them around, there's this black spot, and there were bugs that were getting to my tomatoes. So that was frustrating. But it showed me, oh, I can do this. Like, there's some good dirt. I can do this. That next year I grew okra. I grew zucchini. Oh, and I would get so excited. I was like, look, there's a flower. Look, this is, and all I would do was just make sure I had fish fertilizer. I had a little plant food, and making sure that it was watered. And making sure that I was watering straight at the roots, not really on the plants. You know, if water came on the plants, that would be God doing it through rain, but not me, because I just wanted to make sure that I did my best to not bring pests and different diseases and stuff to the plants. Everything grew well. Then that next year, my husband bought me a tiller, and we did bigger pieces of land. And so last year we had cucumbers, cantaloupes, watermelon. My watermelons would not grow. They would get to a certain size and they would have a black spot, which I learned was blossom end rot. And that would deter me. It kind of made me sad because I'm spending a lot of money trying to fertilize, and I bought this big bag of lime. I'm trying to, do a milk and water mix because it was like, it needs more calcium. It didn't work. I also tried my hand at container gardening, where I grew my corn, and I had some milk crates, and I put a plastic bag, placed, my soil in, placed my corn seeds, and it grew up. But my corn came out looking snaggertooth, and I was like, what's going on? And someone told me on Facebook I needed to grow my corn closer together because it wasn't fertilized. And so I grew corn, but not successfully. I also grew tomatoes. They grew very well. My zucchini grew very well. Squash did not do well because squash bugs came in through the stem and ate my plant from the inside out. Like, my plant started looking droopy and sad. I'm like, I'm talking to you every day. I'm watering you. I'm showing you love. What's wrong? Why are you not producing for me? And that's when I saw something was going on with the plant, and my friend came out and she told me that it was a bug. And so I got the 7 dust. I don't know how well they worked because all my plants died, and that was very frustrating to put all that work in to see it grow and then nothing happens. Again, the squash did not grow, and so I would have to be better about making sure that I do better companion planting, in which my friend did share that with me, which is basically growing plants with the plants that would deter pests and also bring pollinators, like flowers and stuff, that would bring more bees to help pollinate the plants, because it was like my squash had a lot of female plants but not a lot of male, or vice versa. Something was going on. And so what I would do, I would take a paintbrush and try to pollinate it that way, but it still didn't really work for me. So that would be something I would have to research a little bit more for my plants for this year. And I learned that, again, cucumbers are not very good friends with their neighbors because they like to wrap around and choke everybody out. So I had to make sure that I do not grow it near my squash again, or my tomatoes like that, but place them separately. So they are in the cage or my kennel now, and they grow up the wall of the fence, along with my cantaloupe. They grew beside the cucumbers. And also make sure they stay watered, because last year was a very hot summer in Mississippi, and a lot of my stuff died where we did not have a great harvest as we did the previous year. So when I was talking about the okra and stuff, that was the previous year, not this past year. Okay, so that was 2 years ago. And we grew a lot of tomatoes. Those Roma and cherry tomatoes, I think that plant was over 10 feet tall for the cherry tomatoes. One of them, but that's when I found out about determinate and indeterminate tomato plants. And so determinate says, look, we through growing. We're gonna stop right here. But indeterminate, it says, I want to go beyond my potential. I want to go as far as I'm allowed to grow. And even when I had the tomato cages, it didn't work because it was bending over, it bent it with all the yield, which is good that we produced that much. And I was like, okay, I didn't know it was gonna grow that much. We also grew carrots. We grew the short and sweet, and so I don't have any pictures of those because my children would just take them out the ground and eat them. And so I never got a chance to cook with those. We also grew sweet peas, but it wasn't enough to like boil a pot and cook it for my family. And so I would just freeze those. We grew a lot of peppers as well. And so that was nice. We had ghost peppers, but I never used them for anything. And I tried to, the pepperoni peppers that we grew, they would not start growing. I tried to go online to see how to can them, but we were putting, after we canned them, my sons were putting them in, opening up the jar and adding more. And so that was not right. And so when you try to taste one, it almost tastes like alcohol. And so I believe it because you were putting some in that were not cooked. So we just threw it out. And so hopefully this year, if we do pepperoni peppers again, that when I can them, because I wanted to put it on my pizza, like squirt the juice on my pizza. But that didn't work because I was thinking about Papa John's. But every year, it seems as if God is allowing me to find resources and connect me with people who have knowledge, who I am gleaning from. And as much as I have made mistakes and learned new things, we are helping one another, especially with fertilizing, making sure that we, making sure that the dates are right, because we were originally zone 8A. They changed it to zone 8B, but how the weather went, it was still zone 8A weather. And so I did plant a few plants earlier than I should have this year, which are my green beans, and they died when we had this recent frost. But this is my first year growing potatoes, and they are growing very well. Even when I left them outside during the frost, they bounced back. I'm trying again with strawberries, the bare root strawberries that I bought from Walmart. They're not doing well. Hopefully something happens, but I did buy 2 live plants, and so I just transplanted them in a crate. Hopefully they do well. This is my first year growing onions and garlic. I grew them together, and I also placed them in a box with the potatoes. They are doing fantastic. First year doing butter crunch lettuce. It is growing great even after the frost. My first year growing radishes, and it's time for harvest, and hopefully I will have some footage to share with you, because my children, again, they are picking them out the ground, and they are so eager that they are eating them, but they are still growing well. I am growing bok choy. It's growing well. And I'm trying my best to pair things up where they need to be. So I have eggplant with tomato, with corn. I have green beans, green peas near corn, so that the nitrogen can get into the soil for the corn, because they're heavy nitrogen feeders. I'm growing the onions and garlic together, along with the potatoes, because I'm trying to make sure I'm using all the room that I can. And it's just fantastic. And so again, I want to do smarter gardening. It all started in the beginning, seeing my grandmother, even though I didn't do it when I was younger. My mom didn't do it, but she had beautiful garden of flowers. I want to do this for my family, for our health. And again, if something ever happens, then we have stuff at home. And so that's all it is. I want to make sure that at least between 85 and 90% of our produce is coming from our own house and not from the grocery store where there's so many pesticides. So I know that I'm doing organic gardening. I know what I'm putting on my plants, and I know that it's going to be healthier for me and my family. The next thing that I'm looking for one of those the sealers, the food sealers, so that, you know, like when I'm because I already know how to can my food, but I want to buy it where I can put them in that plastic bag and it'll seal it and it'll be fresher longer. So I'm looking into one of those machines. I have been pricing some around on Amazon, at Walmart. You know, I'm looking online, and so hopefully when I get that, I'll be able to share with you all, and you can share if you have one. Share with me how good it has been for you. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.